Good evening, Chair, Senator. My name's Craig Oakley. I'm the Acting Executive General Manager for Aviation Rescue and Firefighting Services, Air Services Australia. Senator, in response to your question, we at present are manned to Category 7 levels at Adelaide. Yep. We are in the process of moving to Category 5 in line with our operating certificate.
So you clearly have freighters and medical transport arriving at Adelaide Airport during the curfew period. So there are aircraft movements during the curfew period.
That's correct, Senator.
And it's the curfew period which you are going to look at taking it from 7 to 5?
That's correct.
So how do you assess a fire risk, whether it be to a medical evacuation, including nurses, a patient, pilots, as being less than a fire risk during the day? How does that rationale work? So if there's a flying doctor flight comes in with someone picked up off a highway for emergency evacuation to the Royal Adelaide Hospital, it's got a medical team on board, it lands, it's got a problem. You're saying that there's not really, it's not the same risk as during the day if there's a fire or an incident. I don't follow that logic.
As I understand it, Senator, the risk is assessed on the frequency of aircraft movements
so it's not an individual thing.
And the size
so
of aircraft.
So we could lose that one because we don't have enough of them, whereas during the day we have 28 flights an hour or whatever. But this is not an individual risk assessment of an aircraft movement, it's the frequency of aircraft movements.
Frequency and size, Senator.
And the size?
Yes.
So if you're unlucky enough to be on a small plane, you're more at risk, is that the...
Senator, the CASA regulation stipulates the level of service required against the number of flights per day and the size of the aircraft.
Is this a significant risk?
Each of the category decisions are considered on a risk-based, from a risk-based perspective, Senator, and reviewed and approved by CASA.
So it is a fact that if you land after 11 p.m. at Adelaide Airport, and there are dispensations given occasionally for aircraft, you would only have one vehicle to respond an emergency.
That is correct.
Except for,
and that
Senator, sorry, I need to just provide a clarity that if there is a dispensation given for, say, for example, a 737, or there's a medical emergency where an aircraft diverts at a high, we will have to provide the category responding to the level that the aircraft operations occur. So it's not just Category 5 regardless of what turns up during those hours.
Have you done any assessment of how many people actually work in the airport during the curfew hours?
No, Senator.
So you have no idea what your, what's happening in the terminal at all? Well, you've got some responsibility there, haven't you?
As a secondary responsibility, our prime responsibility is for the aircraft movements and the aviation operations. With spare capacity, we deal with responding to, say, first aid in the terminal, etc.
Now, I'm sure most of the people on this side of the table, perhaps Dr. Thompson might be a loss, but every time I go to Adelaide Airport in the morning, there are up to 18 aero bridges with aircraft attached on. No risk there?
Absolutely, Senator, and we would staff category-wise to Cat 7 operations at that time.
So, but they're parked there overnight in the curfew hours?
They are, but they're not operating and there's no body on board. And if something happens, such as a tug fire or whatever, we're in a position to be able to respond to it.
With one crew?
Yeah, which is an appropriate response for a tug fire, Senator.
Currently you have two. Yeah.
That's during the day.
Aren't you responding to any incident on the airport, including parked aircraft and terminal buildings?
Yes, but when we are there primarily for aviation operations, and if there is a decision between an aviation operation and a non-aviation, we take the aviation operation.
So would there be a greater risk to those who are working at Adelaide Airport after 11 p.m. as a result of the reduction from 2 crews to 1?
No different to what the risk is during the day, Senator.
So in order for firefighters to enter a structure fire such as a building on an airport, it requires at least 4 firefighters and breathing apparatus. 2 to enter and 2 to remain outside, ready with the BA to take over once the other 2 have exhausted their breathing apparatus or assist with the rescue. With only 1 officer and 2 firefighters, doesn't this mean that if there is a fire in a building on the airport, then the firefighters will not be able to enter to rescue anyone or attack the fire from within? This will leave those working at the airport at night in dire straits. Is that an incorrect assertion?
Senator, because of it is incorrect in the sense that if we were the sole respondents, in cases of structural fire and issues around the airport that are non-aviation related, we are the first responders with the Metropolitan Fire Brigade turning up to take over, which is their speciality.
Yeah, I'll get to that. So Adelaide Airport has had a Cat 7 staffing level for 10 years, is that correct?
That's, I assume, is correct, Senator.
So obviously there was a basis for determining that Adelaide was Cat 7 originally. Have you carried out a safety and or risk assessment to go to the Cat 5?
As Mr Oakley stated, we're going through that assessment now.
Okay. Is this a cost-cutting exercise, Mr Harfield?
No, Senator.
You don't save any money as a result of it?
No, it allows us to look at our resourcing profile around the country because different airports are changing with different aircraft mixes, and there are some fire stations that we're upping the category and there is others that we're adjusting down.
So in Adelaide Airport, is it a cost saving?
Adelaide Airport is that we're looking to staff it as efficiently as possible because other airports we need to up the category where we need to put on more staff.
Okay, and the growth of international flights, particularly to Adelaide Airport, has been astounding. I think the only international airline that doesn't fly in and out of there in the more popular sort of carriers is Qantas. But you have China Southern, Air New Zealand, Malaysian, Singapore, Cathay, Emirates, Qatar. The list goes on and on and on. And you're saying that in that environment where we're looking at every aerobridge being full with parked vehicles overnight, with people working continuously throughout the curfew period in the airport region, on-site, airside, you're saying that the risk has somehow diminished over the last 10 years? Because I can remember Adelaide Airport 10 years ago, we never had the carriers or of the workforce that's on site now.
No, Senator, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that we staff the aviation rescue and firefighting based on the aviation activity and the required category. So with the increase in international traffic and depending on where that growth is and the type of aeroplanes, we may move it from Category 7 to Category 8 and at some stage to Category 9.
In Adelaide, we're going from 7 down to 5.
That's at night in the curfew hours, Senator, when those aircraft are not operating.
Which you haven't been for 10 years. You've been Category 7 for the last 10 years. And despite the growth, you're going down, not up. That's the evidence we've got here today. Now, you mentioned the Metropolitan Fire Service. Where's the nearest Metropolitan Fire Service?
Senator, I am not aware.
Who's making the decision? Are you doing the business case? I can't read Mr Opie, is it?
Craig Oakley, Senator. I'm unaware of that detail.
You don't know where the Metropolitan Fire Station is that'll back up your airport firefighters in the event of an emergency, and yet you're doing the risk assessment.
I'm not doing the risk assessment personally, Senator.
Who is?
It will be done by our Operational Standards and Assurance branch within the Office of the Chief Fire Officer.
And they'll report to you and they'll let you know where the nearest facility is?
They'll take that facility location into consideration in the risk assessment, Senator.
Now, I've got limited time and I just want to go to another issue. Well, I just want to put clearly on the record, Mr Harfield, we're looking at what appears to be officers of air services given misleading evidence to the committee in February, clearly ruling out cross-screwing. Your evidence today is that cross-screwing is happening. So we want you to review that and defend yourself, because the contention here would be that you and Ms Bennett have misled this committee.
Senator.